Secular Roundtable Podcast. You believe what? Religion is the cesspool of human ignorance. Are you fucking kidding me? Go back in your little corner, pray like 10 more times, and come back when you're ready to be rational. What is up? We are back and we are live. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Reason, Religiously Educated Atheists, Secularists, and Other Non-Theists. Got a nasty echo there.
Hold on.
It actually might be my.
No. Okay, you're good to go now.
Okay, let me establish some headphone game here. But yeah, welcome back to another amazing episode. Haven't seen you guys in 2 weeks. Tonight, we will keep you very entertained. I've been drunk since 5 p.m. Let's do this thing.
I feel like the music should start playing now.
Oh, are we gonna play it again?
No. We should be good.
Right.
Only when I'm playing that does it really need to be all piped and whatnot.
So what are we starting with, Aeolus?
We're gonna start with some new science this week, as always.
Yeah, we are. All right. So while Godless Engineer does whatever the hell it is he does to make things appear on the screen, I'm going to talk about these scientists that created what is effectively magic breathing crystals. They don't go too much into what they're actually made out of in the article because obviously proprietary knowledge, don't want it to be that open to everybody. But the idea is using the magical powers of X-ray diffraction, they're able to get these crystals of a particular material and it displays their atomic behavior while full of oxygen, and then they go through another process that removes the oxygen from that crystal. And then they're able to basically supercharge it with oxygen, and then they can repeat this process over and over again. It's actually kind of ridiculous. You can get like a fistful of these little grains, and they can just suck all the oxygen out of a room, and then use that amount of oxygen later on. And like, it's amazing. Like this can revolutionize the way that we store oxygen for people, either for medical uses or underwater in space. It doesn't matter. It's kind of incredible. What was it? It was 10 liters of microscopic grains, and it's amazing. So anyway, this was produced by the University of Southern Denmark and the University of Sydney, Australia. Professor Christine McKinsey was the one who led the study alongside Jonas Sundberg, Department of Physics, Chemistry and Pharmacy, blah, blah, blah. So it works. That's the crazy thing, is we've already done experiments on these, and they seem to be very promising. What's also kind of cool about them is they don't just suck oxygen out of the air, they can also suck oxygen out of water. So if we have like a matrix of these and some crazy apparatus, it's conceivable, mind you, that we could just have suits of these things and just dive into the water and breathe. More or less. Yeah. We're on a magical frontier.
I wonder what the throughput would be like on a whole suit made out of this stuff being able to suck water. And and the next question I would have would be, what effect would that have on the surrounding aquatic life? You know?
That's why you'd have to make a sophisticated suit that would like suck in water and basically blow it past your gills, because that's effectively what they are at this point, and then just shoot out the useless water back into the rest of the world.
Right.
You know what? This, as you said, is very magical. So I would like to take this unique time to show you guys my Lawrence Krauss. I hope that you can see that. And I'd like to share a quote by him. The universe is the way it is, whether we like it or not. The existence or non-existence of a creator is independent of our desires. A world without God or purpose may seem harsh or pointless, but that alone doesn't require God to actually exist. think what I'm trying to tell you guys here is that reality doesn't owe us any comfort, but reality is more poetic and magical, as Dieter has proven here, than any fairy tale that we've ever conceived.
Wait
I
till
like to
I
point
jack
out
my
that
shit, bruh.
I like to point out Godless Lesbian says, "What kind of witchcraft is this?"
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I wanna
oh yeah. Godless Mom made this, guys. So there you go.
Very cool. I want to give two quotes from this Professor Mackenzie. It's it is also interesting the material can absorb and release oxygen many times without losing the ability. It's like dripping a sponge in water, squeezing the water out of it and repeating the process over and over again. And then, when the material is saturated with oxygen, it can be compared to an oxygen tank containing pure oxygen under pressure. The difference is that this material can hold 3 times as much oxygen. So yeah, if this works out the way that they're planning, it is like you'll have a thing. Like you could have a thing on your face and be like, "Whoops! Now I can breathe underwater."
Yeah,
Dude,
and
that's
I'm
like
also,
that's so sci-fi, man. That is like, we wouldn't even have been thinking of this like 50 years ago.
yeah,
Like
I have
remember
to.
the Futurama episode with the breathers when they're in Atlanta underwater? Whatever. So there's a Futurama episode where they basically
Yeah,
give
oh
you a
yeah,
thing
yeah.
it's like a nose plug and a thing that goes on the back of your throat, and that allows you to breathe underwater. Like, we're getting to that. A lot of work has to be done to make sure it's safe and make sure environmental impacts and that everything is awesome about it. But this is like cartoonish level of sorcery.
Yeah. um, I was gonna say just a personal anecdotal story of mine. I used to be a lifeguard. For those of you that really want to venture that way and think of me without a shirt on, um, I used to be a lifeguard, and one of the things about being a lifeguard is that you are responsible for cleaning the pools before the park actually opens. And so what we ended up having to do was get this basically an air compressor hooked up to a rebreather, and we would go down into the water and clean the bottom of like the Olympic pools and these deeper pools. And we did that so that we could stay underwater for however long. Now, at one time, for some reason, the compressor wasn't working, and so like I was underwater when it stopped working. And so I was standing there and I was like breathing, but I was breathing the like the uncompressed air that was in it. So like it was getting harder and harder to breathe, and so I was down there like, and I'm just thinking like how awesome would it have been to have one of those suits, like just some pants or something like that that could have like sucked up air and then like by osmosis put it into my body. I know that's not how it's gonna work, if it
Yeah,
even
like
does work.
it doesn't seem to go into much detail of how you get the oxygen out again.
Yeah,
So
I thought
It's
that would be
magic,
kind of funny.
bitches.
You're gonna have to start looking for people wearing those kind of suits and like just sitting on the bottom of the of like swimming pools, waiting for girls to jump in and their tops to fly off. I mean, we already had people doing that in the
of
pools,
course,
anyways.
in GE's mind, every radical scientific discovery creates perverts.
No,
No,
I
no,
Good
no,
just
no,
job,
no, no,
GE.
no. No, every radical scientific discovery creates the opportunity to look at boobs.
no. I'm saying
Sometimes they're mine.
I was about to say, don't be sexist or
no.
homophobic, I guess.
I had to fix that really quickly.
Well, no, I just know that people are going to exploit things like this. So, from a security mindset, you have to keep these kind of things in mind. It's not that anybody's trying to be sexist about it. It's that if you keep this in mind, if you start designing it with these kind of things in mind, then you can head these kind of things off like before they even become a problem.
So, someone that's done engineering research, I can guarantee that the proliferation of perverts was not actually one of my criteria or a concern in designing anything. So, thank you, GE. Now I have
Well,
another thing to worry about.
That's why
well,
you're not rich.
well, no. I mean, if you think,
Because I don't concern myself with perverts.
no,
Yes.
okay, no,
Whoops.
if you think about like the number of patches that are that have to be done on software and on systems afterwards, you know, if people were to have had the mindset of, how would a pervert use this in order to advance his pervertness? You
That's
know,
going to be like every board meeting I'm ever going to be in for the rest of my life. I'm going to open with that just for you.
okay, yeah, thank you. The godless engineer thinks that everything that we ever do ever can be used by perverts. So
So we made it.
it's
We
honestly
designed
not
a new
far off.
chair. Like we designed a new easy chair. Where can someone put their penis into it?
No, where can we
Right
have
here.
sex on it? How many different positions can we engage in on this chair?
Uh,
I think it's
Oh
best we
man,
move
I'm gonna
on.
have fun designing shit in the future.
I think it's best we move on now.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we should
So
move on now.
I figured one thing that we want to discuss and kind of get out of the way to begin with is the case of Sandra Bland. That's been a very hot topic this week, as far as her traffic stop goes, and then you know how she died in jail. So if you guys haven't seen, there was a 52-minute traffic stop video where the cop um, stopped her and you know, was trying to be friendly with her, but she kind of copped an attitude, and this is where I think that everything broke down and the real situation began. It's when the cop displayed his attitude of, well, if you're going to make this hard for me, then I'm going to make this 10 times harder for you. I mean, I've ran into that kind of attitude so many times down here in the South that it wouldn't surprise me if that was actually an attitude that he had in his personal life. He brought that over into his professional life, and you know that's how things escalated. That doesn't say, hey, Sandra shouldn't have acted like she did. You know, I don't think that she should have acted like she did, but at the same time, who's the professional in the situation? Who's the one that needed to needed to display, I guess maturity, if you will. So I'm kind of curious. What are y'all's thoughts on this?
You want to go first, Dieter?
This is what's like super embarrassing about this is I barely looked into this one because this has been going like police brutality things have been coming up on my various social networks on such a regular basis. I almost like am becoming numb to it, which is very distressing actually. But in this case, I did see a couple of things that was like uh she died in her cell. Some people are saying that it could have been a suicide, apparently, which I don't really know how they could determine that necessarily. A lot of people are saying that she was like beaten to death. A couple people said that she was strangled. Like that, everyone has their own ideas about what was going on, and then everyone has counter ideas of how the other side is wrong. So I'm just kind of like sitting back and just seeing this as another example of people escalating things that don't need to be escalated. If you're stopped at by a police officer for any reason, it's kind of in your best interest to be as courteous and basically professional as you can possibly be, to give them absolutely no reason to do anything to you. But at the same time, the police officer is the actual professional. They're the person that's supposed to be on their best game at all times. So if they stop somebody, of course that they should know that the person they stop is not going to be happy about the situation. So they need to just be prepared for that. I know that's supposed to be in their training anyway, to just deal with ornery anyone, but it doesn't seem like that's happening as often as it should, and people and police officers are being far more aggressive than they need to be. So there's no good things in these situations at all, and it's really disappointing.
I think there are all these theories out there, and we've got to be careful not to incite an emotional response we've got to try our best to be rational. But the thing is that got me is that I'm a minority. I come from a minority group. I come from an area that is approximately 50% Native American, probably like 30-40% African American, and then everything else. Um, when you are a minority living in poverty and you encounter the police, you can't be this way. And I don't know if it's because she was an activist and she had such hostility toward the police, but you can't come into the game like that. You can't have your initial reaction to police officers be that way, because yes, there is systemic racism, and yes, they're expecting a certain type of reaction when they pull over a minority that lives in poverty. Really, it's anyone that is in poverty. You can be white and live in poverty and still suffer at the hands of police, believe it or not. That's how it goes, because the poor are not represented, they're victimized. But anyway, you can't come into the game like that. You know, I still have, from growing up in West Side Baltimore as a child, that innate fear of the police. I'm terrified every fucking time I see them. I don't make any sudden moves. If I get pulled over, I keep both hands on the wheel. If he asks me for something, I ask for permission to get my license or whatever. It's sad that we have to do that, but at all times, you've got to protect yourself. You can't put yourself in danger. And I think that she may have mishandled the situation. The cop definitely mishandled the situation, but she mishandled the situation. And I don't know if that has to do with the way she felt about police, being an activist. But I think that we do need to take a look at that, and we need to instruct people, because we also saw with the pool party, the cop that tried to arrest the girl at the pool party, all of those kids had a negative reaction to the cops. And the ones that didn't, the ones that actually listened to the cops and sat down and did what they were told, they didn't have any issues whatsoever. It was the people that were responding with hostility towards the police officers. You got to understand that these people are human too. They're not going to be the most rational people at all time. At all times. So don't instigate a situation. It didn't need to be instigated. It was a minor traffic violation. It could have went so much differently. Put the cigarette out. Okay, officer, let me put that out. Yeah, it sucks that we have to do that, and we have to obey at the whims of the police officers. But do you really want to become another statistic, or do you want to protect yourself? And I think that that's where she failed as an activist. I'm withholding my thoughts about the suicide and all of the conspiracy theories that are out there until we have more evidence, because I'm trying to abstain from having an emotional reaction.
Okay. Yeah, there's actually cell phone video that is separate from the dash cam. I believe Lucy mentioned it in the comments, and I was actually able to find it real quick. So here's the cell phone video of the stuff that happened off camera.
This is all new to me, by the way. So is that the police officer and her?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there's two police officers.
I can't hear you. Am I on public property?
Now, how's this different from the dash cam footage? Like, I didn't see all the dash cam.
Well, yeah. The dash cam, you can't even see them. They're off camera.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
See, the thing that gets me is, though, even there, like, she's, for lack of a better words here, running her mouth and kind of still being somewhat hostile with the officer. You know, she's being frustrated. I don't know. They're saying that they kicked.
Well,
she kicked.
I'm wondering if maybe the cop misread the kick as, you know, just her reacting to being thrown around. I mean, when the kick actually happened, it was off camera. You don't know. That's why police officers having, you know, police officers having cameras on their person would make so much of a difference, especially in this case. Because, I mean, we could tell, like, if the police officer had a camera on his person, you know, we would be able to tell, like, what actually happened here. Was it just because he was slinging her around and her foot, you know, connected with his shin, or did she actually kick him in the shin? I think it's completely plausible that her foot might, or, you know, in the scuffle or whatnot, it could have seemed like she kicked him when she was her body was just kind of having a ragdoll effect, you know?
This kind of brings
I
up an
just think
interesting.
that I personally, I think that the situation was mishandled, definitely by the police officer, but she also mishandled it as well. And you can't, just because she died, we cannot ignore this fact. That's my
Oh,
personal
no.
opinion.
No, like
I
this
don't
is.
think so at all. Go ahead,
I
Demon.
I mean,
kind of
think I don't.
disagree.
It really blows my mind because maybe it's because I was raised in the South and we're taught a little bit differently. Like, you just fucking comply. Yeah, it fucking sucks. No, you don't have to put your cigarette out. No, you don't have to stop filming. You should definitely film if you see this shit going on. But you can't be out here being argumentative and trying to be hostile with police officers when you already
Like
know that
I
there's a system in place that abuses and takes the rights away of individuals. Don't
You see,
fall
like
into the
I
trap.
think we agree with you. Like I agree with what you're saying, and it's just kind of a practicality sort of situation. But at the same time, it's I think you're kind of giving the same standards that we give like a regular person on the street to a police officer. We kind of should to judge police officers to a higher standard than we do an average person because they elect to be judged in that way.
Absolutely.
So it's like I guess I can't necessarily disagree with you, even though I
That's what I'm
really
saying.
want to.
Without a doubt, that police officer mishandled the situation. Because as a police officer, you need to understand that whatever just happened in the last stop, whatever happened last week, that shit is all in the past. Like, every time you encounter a new member of the public, you need to treat it that way. This is one of the problems we really have to address, not only the training, but the systems that are in place that are allowing this type of thing to continue.
I agree, and I think that's basically what has to be done. And the cameras are one of those go-to fantastic ways to fix a lot of these problems because it forces people to be accountable for their actions. Well, it forces police officers to be accountable for their actions. And I think it's the language thing that is always going to turn people off because you're basically telling people it's like, yeah, you better comply if you want to survive. But the situation you're in is completely unfair and you're right in every possible way. So it's like it's a dissonance that's really hard to parse with people.
Well,
Because I'm already hearing like hundreds of people in the background screaming, "No, you're just accommodating the horrible system." It's like, no, I just want to keep people alive until
Yes,
we
we
can
want
fix
to
the
keep
system.
people alive.
well, now,
And she
okay.
was obviously an activist that had a lot of followers and influence on the community. And it's sad that she didn't handle the situation better because, you know, she really could have taken this on a different route. You know, she could have used this to, I don't know, reach more people with her activism. But now she's dead and she's unable to do that. And yeah, it sucks. Like you said, we're not saying that, you know, we want to keep this system in place and we want people to die. But right now, this is the way the system is designed. Either you're going to play by the game and try to fix it, or you're going to fly in the face and end up the next dead person on the streets. This is why I'm terrified every time I encounter the police.
Yeah, I know I am too. Anytime that a police like I'm in my car and like not that I'm doing it's like not even that I'm doing anything wrong in a traffic sense or speeding or not braking right or something, but I just get so paranoid whenever there's a police officer like in his car around, because I just feel like they're gonna find some reason to pull me over, and then if I'm not perfectly amicable to him, that I'm gonna get like drug out of my car. I think that's a little bit of paranoia, but I feel like that level of paranoia kind of is like a survival instinct, you know? Like I see this kind of stuff going on every day to people all around the country, and it's like, well, fuck, I don't want to be one of these people on the news that died because he got a little smart with a cop, you know? And I think it's horrible that that's the state that we're in right now. But now,
I think the fact we are in this, we have to do this sort of stuff, is illustrating how much we need change, as opposed to people saying like, "Oh, how about we have Cop Pride Day because our cops are so wonderful and always do everything for the community." Instead, we're telling people, just listen to what they say, survive another day. We're basically saying like they're a mob that we just happen to tolerate because they keep a other mob from hurting us. And it's like that is completely counter to what police officers were like 50, 60 years ago. Like they were like, well, I can't necessarily say that, but the image of police officers was completely different. They were like beat cops that everyone in the community knew. They were like, "Oh, you're Steve's brother-in-law. Nice to meet you. How about I get you some lemonade?" It's like, obviously glorifying the past, but we've gone downhill slowly, and it's just gotten worse in the last couple of years. But there was one thing that was said in the chat that I wanted to just mention. There's this, it was saying that the fact that she's dead will do a lot more for activism than when she was alive. I absolutely disagree. She's going to be forgotten in like a month, just like everybody else. Like, you become a statistic, and people just forget about you unless there's a movement specifically about that person that gains momentum somehow. If she's alive, she can continue her fight and continue what she's doing. Never martyr yourself. It's not going to help. You're just going to become a statistic, and everyone in this modern age of constant information is going to ignore you very quickly.
And a possibility here that we do need to mention is that it's possible that she did commit suicide, maybe to to strengthen the movement. So we just can't jump to conclusions on anything at all. But definitely, the last thing I have to say about this is it was totally, this needs to be clear, totally and utterly mishandled by the police officer.
Oh,
but definitely. She could have handled it better as well.
Yeah. Well, I would like to illuminate the reason why people think that she is actually dead in this particular photo. The reasoning behind it is because she's in prison attire. She's in the orange, the orange clothing. They say that, when they take you into custody and they book you, you have your picture taken in your clothes before you change out into your whole prison attire. And so they're thinking that because she died while she was in jail and in these clothes that she's dead. But I mean, I think that there's still a whole, like, after she changed into these clothes, they could have been like, "Oh, did you photograph her?" "No, I didn't." "Okay, well, let's go photograph her." I mean, that's still a plausible thing. I mean, I would love to see evidence to show that can't happen or that never happens or something like that. Which I think the showing that it can't happen will be stronger than it won't happen or whatever. I think that just simply her being in prison orange is not solid proof for anything. I mean, it would be proof enough for me to question it and make sure that she wasn't dead in the photo, but it's not going to prompt me to say, "Hey, she's dead in that photo." You know what I'm saying?
All right, so I just have to mention that I misspoke about the person in the chat, and we're arguing about it. So I apologize for misrepresenting what you said. That's not what I meant. I used your comment as a springboard. Okay? Cool.
All right. Well, let's move off of Miss Bland, and let's move to our next topic, which would be, I think it's Dieter's topic, Richard Dawkins. The Friendly Atheist blog has pretty much lambasted Richard Dawkins for this particular tweet, saying, Islam needs a feminist revolution. It will be hard. What can we do to help? And the problem that people are having it is, as far as I understand it, which Dieter might be able to illuminate a little bit further, is that people are freaking out because it's an older white male that says, hey, Islam needs a feminist revolution. And apparently that is the big problem. I don't know. Do you understand the situation, Dieter? I mean, honestly, at first glance, I don't see anything wrong with this tweet.
Like, I will admit most of my ire was given by reading through comments. I didn't actually read the entire article. But it's one of those situations that I just get so freaking annoyed. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that Dawkins is a super eloquent tweeter, because obviously he makes a lot of silly mistakes. But this is like the most innocuous, like pretty forward-thinking thing that I've seen him tweet in a while. Like, it's not even saying it's not saying that Islam is fundamentally terrible. It's not saying that only men have to do all of the corrections, like, white men, let's gather and start a revolution for Islam. It's just, like, all I can see in this is pointing out that some of the fundamental aspects of Islam could use a feminist revolution, empowering women in ways that they are right now being, honestly, almost demonized. And it could be said exactly the same for, like, evangelical Christianity, that it also needs a feminist revolution. Like, I don't understand how people can be like, this is something that we should, like, disagree with and fight virulently. There's some nuance that could probably be said about what he means by this, because Dawkins always forgets to add nuance to his comments. But
it's Twitter.
I know it's Twitter, but it's just so freaking annoying that the objections that I heard were things like, why are old white men having an opinion on feminism and Islam? Which is like, he's asking, what can we do? I am looking at this and seeing that there might be a problem. What can we do to help as a community? Like, what do you want, people? What do you want when there's an issue? Do you want to come to us first? Like, I don't get it anymore. This is just so freaking annoying that this is something that people can find objectionable. I just can't.
People just want to bitch. People just want to bitch about something. And the thing that I think they're probably bitching about this the most is that he said it needs a feminist revolution. Now, people that probably have seen this, his followers, are people that either live in the UK or live in the United States or some country where women pretty much are equal with men. They have the same rights, the same protections, and things like that. What they don't understand is that in these countries, women are subjugated. They are oppressed. They do not have the same rights. They can, in some countries, they can't even go outside without wearing a trash bag. You know what I mean? So maybe their response is due to what he's mentioning here with feminism, and feminism is kind of taking a bad rap right now. But what you need to understand, anyone watching, is that just because there are a few individuals that have given feminism a bad name, it doesn't mean that the whole movement is garbage. I openly identify as a feminist for the same reason that I openly identify as an atheist. I'm not afraid that atheism has negative connotations associated with it, and neither am I afraid that feminism has some negative connotations associated with it. Islam fucking needs a feminist revolution. It needs that push. It needs the liberation and the protection of women. Because if you've ever read the Quran, if you've ever read the Hadith, if you've ever seen their culture in action, it is extremely oppressive to women. And I think that a lot of people don't get to see that firsthand, so they don't understand what is really happening in these countries. Dieter?
One of the objections that after looking through more of the article, is that there is already a feminist movement in a lot of these Islamic countries. So it's kind of like, oh, big old white man saying that we need help when we're already working on it. And I'm falling back on people just want to bitch. Because honestly, that would be the response. It would just be like, oh, Dawkins wants to help? Hey, help this organization. Cool beans, brah.
Well,
exactly like that.
I don't think that the feminist movement within Islam, if there is indeed one, which this article says that there is, I don't think that it gets the publicity that it really needs. So
why can't fucking Dawkins help?
I don't know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Do you want people that are in positions where they could get a lot of information out to just be ignored?
Well, I mean,
it's like, oh, you're white and a dude, so shut the fuck up and let us handle this. It's like,
well, it's like they get insulted because it says Islam needs a feminist revolution, and they get immediately insulted because there's already one apparently happening. And just because Richard Dawkins is uninformed or ignorant of the feminist revolution happening within Islam, they want to jump all over him because he doesn't know it? I don't know. I mean, this just sounds like something that I would ask if I was really sincerely looking to help any disparaged group. And it's like, it says that it will be hard. What can we do to help? I mean, it just sounds like he's wanting to help people. And the article says that his biggest flaw here is his ego. I don't see where his ego is in all this.
Dude, let me just tell you.
Help.
The atheist
where is their
community,
ego?
The atheist community is, and a lot of you motherfuckers are going to be upset with me that I'm saying this, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. The atheist community is the most nitpicky community that I've ever been a member of. I've never been a member of a community of a minority of people that want to continue to divide and subdivide themselves. I don't understand why we try to do this so much. Why are we so divisive? Why can't we stand together and say, hey, you know what? Dawkins is actually right about this. There could be feminist revolutions. I can't even name one. I've never even heard of one. But what do I continue to see? Acid thrown on women. Women mistreated. Women don't have rights. Women have to wear these fucking trash bags. They're not liberated. They're not free. Their testimony is worth 1/4 or 1/2 that of a man. This is some bullshit. This is the shit that we hear about. We don't hear about the feminist revolution. So stop fucking bitching and do what you got to do to help. And that's what he's asking here. What can we do to help? That's what we want to know.
I think if we want to activate our incredible nitpicking, which apparently that's what we do in the atheist community, I suppose I can understand what they're looking at to think that it's like he has such a big ego. It's kind of like somebody walking into, basically like, if the three of us walked into a room full of like people that are Black Lives Matter, super into racial equality sort of issues, and we just sauntered in and said, hey guys, guess what? There appears to be some racial disparity in our country. You guys want to help us work on that?
But I don't see it coming across as that. And you got to keep in mind that this is Twitter.
This
is Twitter, and you only get 140 characters.
But I think that's
the nuance. Text is ambiguous. I don't understand this ambiguity of text. People read it and they're like, "Let me make the worst that I can out of this text."
It's Dawkins talking. Of course, people are going to make it the worst they possibly can. But you understand what I'm saying?
It's like accepted at face value.
I think that's what they're possibly thinking about. But of course, me assuming what they're thinking is probably because of my massive white ego.
Oh yes, that massive white ego. Oh, and don't forget white guilt.
Don't forget cisgender.
Oh, I now feel guilty about it. I'm sorry.
There you go. All right. So, any final thoughts on this? I mean, for me personally, I think that people are being ridiculous, and like Dieter said, it's just people that want to bitch are looking to bitch, and they're gonna bitch. They're gonna find whatever minute thing that they can find in order to bitch about it.
I understand now that I'm like looked at it why they are bitching, but I wish they responded more conversationally than just outright attacking Dawkins, because the man gets attacked enough. So
Yeah.
criticize him on things that he actually does, but there's no reason to be nasty about it.
What about you?
I think
there, Ellis?
personally, I think personally, and I'm kind of going through this myself right now with my social media, and it's that people they don't want to see you have a personality when you're a voice of atheism. They really don't, and they're gonna bitch about that. And I'm seeing that personally. And I think that what Dawkins does is he tends to go on and make comments about things, not this one specifically, but other things he has said, and he kind of put his foot in his mouth. And that just seems to be what it is. You know, we hold these people up to such a high standard when it comes to atheism, and we're like, yeah, they've got this, and then when they misstep on something else and speak about something that maybe they shouldn't have, we kind of crucify them. And I think the thing is here is that they've already got a community of people just waiting to do that. They know that Dawkins is infamous for getting on Twitter and saying some shit that he really shouldn't say. I can admit that I've seen tweets that I was like, wow, Dawkins, you should have just really said nothing there. You should not have made that tweet. But this is not one of them. So since you've already got that group of people that is out there willing to do that, you've got to be even more careful when you're him. But personally, I don't see anything wrong with that tweet. I agree with it. What can we do to bring Islam into 21st century? Like, that's the question.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, especially with everything that we've been seeing.
But I think we do have to acknowledge that there are Muslim groups that are working to, like, basically get Islam to go into a much more, or I guess a lot more liberal kind of interpretation. So
well, I
that
think
is happening.
Can I?
We have to acknowledge that that is happening. It's not like white people have to swoop in and save all the people of Islam. There are people within it that are working on it. So good on them.
Can I go on another tirade here really quickly?
yeah.
So this is something that
fine.
pisses me off about feminism here, the radical feminism. Like, they're worried about like man spreading and all this other bullshit. When Dawkins in his tweet is being more of a feminist than most feminists out there by asking, "Hey, look, I understand we've already got these things going in our countries. What can we do, because we are not, exposed to what's happening over there? What can we do to help women in these cultures?" You know what I mean? I feel like he's being more of a feminist than most feminists there by realizing that, hey, we've got this covered in our country. Like, what can we do over here? And I think we should be more focused on the worldwide perspective when it comes to feminism, rather than bitching about some bullshit that doesn't even make sense.
No, yeah.
If you say so.
Well, I think
They're gonna make
that,
a meme out of this. Don't worry.
I think that like people that think that Richard Dawkins is an old white man is saying, hey, what can we white people do to help out our poor colored people of different faiths and race. When he said we, I guess because I have this egalitarian mindset that he's equally meaning we as humans. What can we do to change this? And I know that he's more. At least I feel he does need to word it a bit better. But I think that he's being more specific to, the larger portion of the Muslim community. And I would say that the larger portion of the Muslim community isn't like, the Muslim community of Texas that has a woman spokesperson that goes and she talks on a podium to, people. She's like a leader in that community. I don't think that he would be necessarily directing his tweet towards those people.
So I saw one of these responses, the hijabi princess, I believe is how it's pronounced, Richard Dawkins needs to abandon his patronizing white savior paternalistic Islamophobia. It will be hard. What can we do to help?
Wow. I don't get patriarchal or anything from whatever he said.
No,
But,
paternalist. Paternalist.
Oh, like a parent. Yeah, because only parents want to help each other out or help out other people, right?
I just don't know, like, why. Like, this needs to just... People need to just be like, oh, this appears like this person actually wants to have a conversation about what they can do to help. Let's have that conversation. Like, automatically assuming that somebody that is actively saying, we want to help, is patronizing you, then you gotta get your act together.
Yeah. I agree. Let's move on to another one. We've been hitting some pretty hot topics, hot button topics here at first, but let's get to something that we can all agree on, and that's how stupid
Ted Cruz, hooray!
Yeah. Okay, so recently Ted Cruz was able to get about a $15 million donation. And that's from the Ferris and Dan Wilkes brothers. They donated $15 million. And just to give you an indication of why they gave it to him, and this is the most disparaging or concerning part of it, in my opinion. And
wait, what is the 15 million for?
You're gonna see. This is a quote by the people that donated to him. Our country was founded on the idea that our rights come from the Creator, not the government. I'm afraid we're losing that. Ferris Wilkes, a 63-year-old pastor in the small town of Cisco, said in a statement to CNN, unless we elect a principled conservative leader ready to stand up for our values, we'll look back on what was once the land of opportunity and pass on a less prosperous nation to our children and grandchildren. That's why we need Ted Cruz.
I'm slightly concerned.
Driven mostly by their opposition to abortion and their fear that their religious sect, which interprets every word of the Bible literally, is under attack. Dan and Ferris Wilkes have slowly become more accustomed to funding campaigns. We need a true leader in Washington, Ferris's younger brother, Dan, 59, said in a statement. A leader that will stand up for biblical morals. You know, those curious biblical morals like, hey, kill that gay person that's walking down the street because they're gay. Because
don't forget witches.
Yeah, burn witches. You know what? Maybe we should just throw some of these witches into the pond. If they float, you're dead.
Oh, and don't forget, check your wives to make sure they're virgins first, because you have to know if you should kill them or not.
That's a good point.
Shellfish, bacon.
That's sound relationship advice from the Bible.
Better make sure your roof is correct too.
I don't see how you guys can really take this lightly. I mean, come on. We need to be living by biblical values.
I'm kind of curious, was this guy a pastor after he became a billionaire, or did he become a billionaire by being a pastor?
I don't know. Probably my guess would be that because he became a pastor and then he was able to collect and whatnot. Now, the reason why I say that this is most concerning is because, you know, a lot of standings and polls depends on how much you can get your message out there. Not whether or not your message is good, but how much money you have to put behind it. A good example of that is Joshua Feuerstein. He's got the money to put behind his campaign to push his celebrity, whatever, out there to get like 1 million people on his Facebook page within a year. If any of you have a Facebook page, you know how hard it is to really get past all of the filtering down that Facebook's algorithm does. But if you have enough money to put behind it, you can get past it. You can push your stuff out there and get it seen and get liked. I mean, that's what's concerning to me, is that you have these prominent people that have the financial backing to really get these people in a position to be heard by the majority of people. And if they don't hear an opposing side, a reasonable side, that is either at the same level of exposure, then I'm really afraid that we're going to go by the wayside in this next election and actually elect one of these crazy ass people to president.
It's also it's just outright self-serving. It's like, if you're unbelievably wealthy and the only thing you care about is just having that money get compressed into a giant wad that you can hide under your dresser, then you need to have like unbelievably fiscally conservative leaders that put absolutely no restriction on gaining wealth or taxes or anything. Or I guess extreme restrictions on taxes. What am I saying? So this has nothing to do with the religion. I shouldn't say that, because obviously these people have their own thoughts and their own motivations and whatever. But to me, the religious aspect of this completely goes by the wayside, because what they want is to make their wealth stay their wealth. I would have to hear it from their mouths that they're not doing that to be dissuaded.
Whoa, okay, I think I'm going to have to do a what is on this, because these guys, they belong to an unorthodox sect of Christianity called the Assembly of Yahweh, Seventh Day. Now, if they're
Unorthodox.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, if I were just reading that and I were to guess what they were doing, it sounds kind of like they're lazy. Because, I mean, didn't Yahweh rest on the seventh day? Or maybe they just think that God is not doing anything now because he's resting and this is his seventh day? I mean, I don't know. God,
well, they do want to get super rich, so I guess the seventh day is when they spend money.
On hookers and blow.
Hookers and blow, that's...
You can always ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah, exactly.
Goddamn forgiveness.
But let's see. Oh, hey, look, they even have a link to their website. Assembly. Yeah, that looks pretty. I'm gonna kill homosexuals. But let's see.
What did you see? You're just like, that looks a lot like I'm gonna kill homosexuals, so I'm just gonna leave now.
Do we need an appearance from GE, man?
Yeah, apparently.
Was it just a gay guy getting stabbed in the chest? Like, that's a pretty wicked screensaver.
Let's see, well, I mean, they have the Bible verse up here. Who has established all ends of the earth? What is his name and what is his son's name? Surely you know. And it says this site is under construction. No, just the whole. I mean, it's like Assembly of Yahweh, and it's got like some kind of. It looks like the Jewish candle thing. I don't know. This looks really weird. It looks weird to the point of I don't want to be near these people. Anyways.
Wait, a menorah?
Yeah.
A menorah?
Yeah, well,
I was like, Jewish candle thing. What are you talking about?
Well, I always think it's interesting when they settle on one name for God when he has so many. Elohim, Eloi, Yahweh, Jehovah, Jesus, Yeshua, Jesus. Like, which name are we really going to call him?
I find it really amusing that it's always like, this is the unorthodox version, where we stay incredibly orthodox about very specific ideas.
They're actually owning up to Yahweh, though. I mean, that's kind of rare. Most people are not gonna, associate themselves with the war god Yahweh. So this is kind of unorthodox.
So you're talking about we got some brothers that are billionaires that believe in the war god of the Jews and are using those ideas to push forward legislation.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything to be worried about.
Well, I mean, that's
just
a menorah,
another day in America.
I mean, is that a menorah or is that a different kind of ceremony?
It looks like a menorah, but I'm not Jewish, so
I'm not either. That's why I said it looks like a Jewish candle thingy. I mean, that's an Alabama term, of course, because we're all Christians down here.
Jewish candle thingy. That's so polite.
I'm gonna make a meme out of that.
You're just gonna have my face like Jewish candle thingy. It's a thingy.
Hey, G, make a talking face. Like, there, screen cap. All right,
Yeah.
we got the meme.
Yeah, yeah. I'm expecting to see dicks in my mouth later on when I go to search Godless Engineer. So let's move on to our
Like those
next
aren't there
topic.
already.
This will be our last topic before the end of, or before Hypocrite of the Week. I hope you'll stay around. I bet you can't guess what it is.
I hate all of you.
Yeah. Okay, so as reported by the Friendly Atheist, the Stone County Sheriff's Office in Missouri has opted to put "In God We Trust" on their vehicles. I'm kind of curious as to what you guys think of this in particular. I have
Well,
my
it's
own.
outright illegal, for one.
Well,
Yes.
not actually. The Hemet brings up an interesting point about it being illegal. Hemet says, or he brings up the point that we become so desensitized in our society to "In God We Trust" that a lot of judges think that it means any God, and I know this gets commonly brought up, but I think that we still need to really push for it and reiterate it is, if this God means any God out there, then they should be perfectly fine with it saying "In Allah we trust," or "In Superman we trust," or any other God. I'm gonna look up weird African gods next, and it's be like, here's a weird
The
God. How
great
about we
Juju
trust in
of the
him?
mountain.
Yeah, and
I would
so
say in Quetzalcoatl we trust, but that would fill up all the bumper.
yeah.
What kills me though is that, okay, so say for instance you're a Muslim or a Jew, maybe not, maybe a Jew is not a good example, but any other of the religions, and you see that, what goes through your mind? Probably the same thing that goes through my mind as an atheist. They're saying that in their specific God they trust. Even though it says God, we know exactly what Christians mean when they use the word God. They're referring to Yahweh or Jesus. The problem is it kind of divides you from other people that may have a different God, because they may be looking at that as if, hey, you're less of a member of the community because you have a different God than ours, or anything like that. I
It
think
also makes
that's kind of sort of, as ambiguous as it may seem, it actually does make a distinction here where the majority of people in America are Christians, and we know exactly what the fuck they're talking about. Wouldn't you agree with that, Dieter? Like, we know what they're saying.
well, yeah, of course we know what they're saying, but what makes it really troubling to me is like I'm looking at it as an atheist. I don't know what you're looking at it as, but whatever. And I'm seeing when I see something like this, what I see is like we as a police department, because I'm assuming it was approved by the police department and not just these officers. But even if it was just these officers, it's saying that whoever is currently in this vehicle places more authority on their imagined like ruler of the universe than they do on their rules, their regulations, the whatever district they live in, and like those like various laws above the Constitution, and that's what it says to me, and that's what gets me really freaking freaked out, because that's like me going into like a weird cult scenario, and someone saying like, "Yeah, I trust in Steve more than I trust in my own judgment. I trust in Jeff more than I trust in the Constitution on which our country stands."
Yeah,
And
that's
that's what
scary.
gets me freaking scared, because that's just like, damn. I want to have police officers, like, whatever their beliefs are, that's fine, whatever they believe in, for the most part. I want them to still make it very clear to me, as a citizen, that what they trust in is, at the very least, the Constitution in which we live, in which we actually live under.
Okay, well,
That's what I want to see.
if you're
Yeah,
curious
and we
about
kind of expect them to be objective too.
if you're kind of
Yeah,
curious
this is
about
clearly not objective. They're wearing their biases right on their bumper.
exactly. Well, I would like to make a point about the "In God We Trust." If you actually consider the context of "In God We Trust," how it came to be on our money and be kind of like a national motto, basically, if you really think about it, it is wholly Christian in origin, because it was brought up during the 1950s, and we were wanting to distinguish ourselves from those evil atheist commies. We were wanting to distinguish ourselves from them. And what's the majority in America? I mean, it's not like they were thinking, oh yeah, we've got Muslims and we've got Jewish people here and we got all of this. No, they were like, oh, well, we're a Christian, we're primarily a Christian nation, so of course, in God we trust. I mean, they don't mean like in Yahweh we trust. They don't mean in Allah we trust. They don't mean any of that. It was birthed and it was purported and promoted as the Christian God. And them coming back now is just them. There's an urban dictionary term for it, but they're backtracking on their whole term for their whole "in God we trust." But to answer Dieter's question about where they lie or whatnot, where their biases lie or trust lies, they have Romans 13:3-4 up on their website.
On their website?
On their website. For the quote-unquote policeman does not frighten people who are doing right, but those who doing evil will always fear him. So if you do not want to be afraid, keep the laws and you will get along well. The policeman is sent by God to help you. But if you are doing something wrong, of course, you should be afraid, for he will have you punished. He is sent by God for that very purpose.
I gotta give it to them.
They are the ones. They're the ones that define Okay, so in normal society, we have laws that are put down, precedents, trials over the decades and centuries to decide what sort of things lead to a harmonious society. What this is saying is, no, that's all shit. Don't pay attention to any of that. What our religious book says decides what is good and evil, and I, as the God-given police officer authority, am allowed to dish that out at my own discretion. That's fucking scary. If this department... what if one of these officers is just suddenly like, you know what, sodomy? Yeah, that should be punishable by death now. So if I stumble across a couple that are kissing or engaging in some sinful act, I'm just gonna shoot them. Because I can. That is freaking terrifying.
It is. And just for reference, Romans 13:3-4, of course, doesn't say policemen. It actually says rulers. Like kings and stuff.
But this is pretty clever, though. You gotta at least give them that.
It
this
says
is pretty clever.
Rulers.
Right.
That's not
replace
troubling
rulers
whatsoever.
with policemen.
Yeah,
Romans 13 is all about how God has placed authorities into power, and that every authority established is an authority that is established by God, and therefore you should obey it. That's basically what Romans 13 is about. They switch the words.
Oh. Can someone email them and say well, we passed gay marriage. That means it's law given by God.
Yeah.
You gotta obey. I'm not saying this, I'm not going to try to
Well,
put
didn't
words
we
in
say we're
people's
taking
mouths.
it out
I
of
have no idea if
context?
they're homophobic or anything. So
Well,
I should assume
of course
that
we're taking it
verse
out
only
of context. We're not in Israel. We're not in 0 CE. We're not Jesus for one. We're not the Romans. It's completely
I'm actually
out of
all
context.
of those things.
Huh?
I'm actually all of those things.
The thing
Well,
is,
then you
though,
can kill gays.
if the roles
I don't
were
want to.
reversed, if the tables were turned and gay marriage had been struck down, they would be parading that verse. The authorities established have been established by God, and this is exactly what God wanted. But
That's
because
why it's such bullshit to me. It's you're not obeying your book or all these sort of artsy interpretations of anything. You just have your biases. You want them to be established as law, and you'll do whatever you can to justify it. So stop lying, you assholes. Just say you hate gay people. Just say it. I'll actually have respect for you.
I actually would too if they stop hiding behind the ruling, just I hate gay people. I'm using
I'll still
the
think
religion
you're wrong
to
and are assholes, but at least I'll respect your general integrity as a person.
Yeah, their honesty.
There we go. I'll respect your honesty. Because I'm actually questioning your integrity a little bit.
All right.
Ranting is fun.
Yeah, ranting is definitely fun, especially when it's this kind of illegal stuff. But it's illegal stuff that we're probably not going to be able to do anything about. I mean, you could take
Yeah,
them to
'cause
court.
what are you gonna do? Complain to the police?
They'll just direct you to Romans 13:3-4, their interpretation.
Yeah.
Like,
Render
I
unto
joke
Caesar,
about that,
bitch.
but that's what I'm talking about. Is like, if you're an atheist, a minority of religion, or just not a crazy religious person, you could see any of this and be like, holy fuck, if I'm in trouble and if I have a certain situation, I can't go to the police for help. Like that is a terrifying state of affairs to be in.
Well, not only that, but especially around with the whole, relating back to the Sandra Bland situation. I mean, look at what they're saying. So, if you do not want to be afraid, keep laws and you will get along well. I mean, do you not see how this is basically saying, hey, if you don't want us to smash your face in with our boot, don't commit crimes? That's not the issue. Yeah, sure. If you don't want to suffer the consequences of committing crimes, don't commit crimes. But one of those consequences should not be getting your face smashed in just for speeding or mouthing back off at a police officer.
Or not wanting your police department to be represented by a religion.
Exactly.
Like, that's something I don't particularly want either.
This is just wrong on so many levels, and I can't believe that they had the audacity to go and put that on there. And regardless of what you guys think, I personally don't think it's going to stick. It's not going to stick.
No. Well, it's like they were saying. I mean, they're totally desensitized. Our judicial system is desensitized to "In God We Trust." That anybody that stands up against that oh so holy motto there is going to get a lot of hate thrown at them. But yet, yeah, we're the ones that are persecuting the Christians.
The problem is that whole motto is just so hypocritical in nature to have that on your money when the Bible teaches in probably over 300 or 400 different verses that the accumulation of wealth is a bad thing. When Jesus himself said, give up all your possessions, give up all your possessions, and sell
No
everything
positions
that you
for
have.
Nope,
Well,
not even missionary.
Well, you see where my mind is at. Sorry. But sell all your possessions and give to the poor. There's a reason for that, because I don't want to get into the whole history of economics of Christianity and whatnot. But the thing is, the Bible specifically instructs that the love of money is the root of all evil, and I think it's just extremely hypocritical that is even on the money. It really is.
Yeah. A lot of people like to demean the fight to get that taken off the money and get, in God we are one nation under God taken out of the Pledge of Allegiance. But you see, the problem is that keeping the under God in there is starting to cause a lot more problems than just simply taking it out and reverting it back to the original kind of Pledge of Allegiance. Because, for one thing, there are people that are not wanting to recite it just in general, not just because of the God part, but just in general. You have a lot of different military branches that require you to take an oath that invoke a God or a higher being. And me personally, I don't think that you should have to, do that. Just like I don't think that a Christian should have to compromise their belief. Like, for instance, they shouldn't be forced to marry, somebody of the same sex. But, at the same time, they shouldn't prevent other people from marrying somebody of the same sex because it's not them. But, I don't know. It just seems so wholly hypocritical of them to really fight to keep it in there. What?
The comment
Holy
section
with a
is going
W.
ham. Sorry, but the comment section is going ham on the give up your positions.
Give up your positions and get on your knees for Jesus.
Staying classy.
I would
comment section.
like.
Good job.
Yeah, I would like to thank everybody in the comments right now for sticking with us tonight, and for the regular people like Fishhead and I'm not sure if I
Lucy.
saw Lucy. Yeah, Justin's in there. Angel, I saw her in there. I saw plenty of other people before. I can't come up with them off my head, off the top of my head. But we got some new people. I
Hey,
think. Huh?
Lillian Rouse from Instagram. Got to give a shout out. I think this is probably her first show with us.
Yes. First time I'm really seeing Fiction Fighter too. And Godless Lesbian, I know her from several Skeptic Fence shows and
Ooh,
the
Scout.
goddamn. Huh?
I
Ooh,
recommend that
Scout.
everyone that is listening to
Yeah.
us subscribe to all of our channels and share this video around to everyone you have ever met.
Yeah. After this post, I'll definitely have their. I should have had their links in the description. I'm sorry about that, guys, but I will get them up post. So.
You are ashamed. I'm ashamed of you and your family.
Yep. Figures. Anyways, so what we want to get into now is Hypocrite of the Week, besides the sheriff.
All right, so it's time for my favorite segment of Reason, Hypocrite of the Week. Woo! GE, go ahead and drop that Hypocrite of the Week on them.
This week we have a pastor that is charged with sexually assaulting 2 girls and is now charged with witness intimidation. Let's see how this works out. Carlisle, PA, a Cumberland County pastor charged with sexually assaulting 2 girls is now charged with witness intimidation. Pennsylvania State Police said 64-year-old, 64, damn, Raymond Burrow tried to get the girl's father to drop the sexual abuse charges, but the father informed the police. Burrow was a pastor at Calvary Temple Holiness Church in South Middleton Group that might as well have said, "Pedophiles, please enter here, church." News 8 called the church for a comment, but the man who answered did not have anything to say. As reported last month, Burrow admitted to police that he sexually assaulted the girls for as long as 3 years. I'm not sure how old the girls were. As you guys talk, I can look that up. But yeah, this guy seems to be a shithead.
I'm starting to wonder if people are going to actively start joining the priesthood for the express purpose of molesting people.
Well, it's not.
Like, I'm not even kidding around here. It's so normal now that I would be actually surprised if awful people didn't see it as an opportunity. Clean up
know
your
what,
fucking
though?
shit, people.
Something that you guys said the last time we talked about Hypocrite of the Week really needs to be put out there, and I think it could be an explanation for why these people end up in positions of power in which they abuse people. I can't remember which one of you said it, but it was something along the lines of these people who have these pedophile desires. They know that it's wrong and they want to seek help, so they take the religious steps to do that. And in doing so, they become so invested in the church. Maybe they become a youth minister or a youth pastor, maybe even the pastor. And then now they're in this position of power where they can take advantage of people because they've never actually gotten help or corrected or maybe even amended the issues that they have going on. I don't remember which one of you said that, but it was fucking genius. And we need to get the ball rolling on that and expose that as one of the potential reasons that there are so many fucking pastors being brought up on child sex abuse charges.
Yeah,
See, what's funny is I think I was the one that said that, but I don't remember saying it, so I feel really impressed with what I said. So good job,
it impressed
me.
Me, so I'm never gonna forget it. That impressed me a lot.
No, because that's a really good point I possibly made in the past. But to reiterate on that point, I think it's exceptionally easy, as I just demonstrated, to demonize these people because they did something so heinous. But obviously, because they did it, there is something deeply wrong with these people. Something that I really would hope would be able to be fixed in something like a correctional facility. But unfortunately, that's a whole different topic, and we're not going to get into that right now. But I can totally understand that way of thinking. That you are in a desperate situation, you have thoughts you can't control, or something like that. So you seek out the only method of help you've ever been taught in your life. And in this case, it would be the church. And the church preaches abstinence or preaches you only can get help through religion. And you're like, sounds good, set me up. And then they get into a position of semi-power, they get into a position of absolute power over some people. It gets to their head with some people, so they think they can do no wrong. They think what they're doing isn't actually harmful in any way. It's just a manifestation of godliness. Because they're not doing something wrong, because they're fixed. Or what they're doing just doesn't even qualify as something harmful. It's a very twisted, diluted, and harmful way of thinking, but it's not terribly surprising. So, I say again, get your shit together, people, and stop doing this to people. Stop getting people to get in this situation, because all it does is breed a constant awful stream of this awful news that I have to read all the fucking time. So
Well, I think we've also got to change the way that people view pedophilia. It's a real thing, and until we destigmatize the fact that people
most of the
can
time
be
it's not
attracted
pedophilia. Like, that's the thing.
most of the time it
this
is,
isn't
though.
even a deal.
It
It's
usually
normally
is
just
with
like,
these pastors.
I don't think it is. Like, I don't think that this is genuine. I am physically attracted to these young children. Good thing I have God on my side. I think it's a much more nuanced and twisted way of thinking. That they justified these actions in their head is what should be happening.
Well,
It could be a power trip. It could be a whole bunch of things.
Well, yeah. Well, I know with pedophilia, a lot of the science seems to indicate that the real attraction is absolute power and control over another person, and so it's not. It's not necessarily the sexual component of it, but it's like sex. Sex is a component of it, but only in that it's a way to get absolute control over someone or something
Like,
like that.
even like I've heard that like a million times. Like, even when it comes to like rapists, that's actually their motivation. I think it's even more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
That there
I do
are
too.
like very subtle and complicated and not easy to broad brush causes for people to do such horrible sexual related crimes.
Yeah.
Well, here's
Which is-
something that I said on the last Hypocrite of the Week, which was actually genius as well. And it's that, in every other facet of life, in every other profession, we put these restrictions on people and tell them, be extremely careful when you interact with someone who is emotionally vulnerable, who is relying on you. Because what happens when people become emotionally vulnerable and they open up to you, attractions develop. It's sad that that happens, but pastors happen to be in a situation where they can be opened up emotionally to these children with no other like outside component to it. It's usually just the pastor who is the head of the church and he is the final authority when it comes down to it. So it can be a little bit different from a doctor or a nurse or a psychologist or something like that. The pastor has the ultimate authority, and I think that that's another thing that we really need to start stressing when it comes to these pastors is that if you are going to accept this position where you are going to help people and deal with their emotional abuses and problems and accept their vulnerabilities, then we need to train them a little bit better to expect these things to happen and to know what to do when they happen. But instead, if you combine that with what you said about, child molesters who want to solve their problems using religion and they become a pastor because they get so invested in the church, it's really like we're setting ourselves up for failure.
Oh, I'm not even saying like this is kind of mentioned in the chat, which I'm probably going to misrepresent once again, so prepare yourselves. This idea that it's like that there aren't real pedophiles. Like, I wasn't trying to imply that pedophiles don't exist. I was trying to say that I don't think that's necessarily a motivation. So, like,
Well-
what you were saying, I'm not saying that people are like, oh no, I molested a child, that I must turn to God, and that's what happened. I'm thinking that people just have, like, a myriad of different urges, not even necessarily, like, pedophilic urges. and they just see that the only way they can get control over their lives is through religion. But since they never actually learned how to cope with their lives, it can manifest in some very destructive ways.
I agree with that. I think that the religion just suppresses the actual feelings, and since they haven't actually confronted them, if they get put into a position where they're forced to choose, they may choose the worst possible option.
And now Fiction Fighter is screaming its psychopathy, so we probably should address that.
Well, yeah, psychopathy is...
Psychopathy, it's way too simple. Like, it's really easy to paint a broad brush and say that these people are just fucked in the head. I think the thing that's really troubling about this situation is that they're not much different than everyone else. Like, this is just what happens when you put a person who has a various number of variables lined up in a position of power. So they are, like, I don't think that they're necessarily insane. I think
it's
that they're...
so much more nuanced than that.
Yeah, and I hate and love nuance. Because it means that we can't just say, take this pill, and then all harm from religious people will disappear. It's nope, we don't get to have that. We've got to work harder.
I mean, I think that you really can't understand it until, personally, I've been in a situation where I was emotionally vulnerable and I opened up to someone that I would have never had sex with, or I would have never saw as attractive whatsoever. But in doing so, it led to sex and different other things. But what I'm trying to get at here is that you don't really understand that you're putting people in a position of power in which they always seem to abuse it. I mean, isn't that what power does? Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Even we keep using buzz phrases like psychopathy and then power corrupts. Life is more nuanced, dude.
It is, but
Well, yeah, I don't know. I have to lean a little bit with Fiction Fighter on the psychopathy. Not that that is the only thing, but, kind of like with, to compare it to me with my depression, it's an imbalance in chemicals in my brain, and it's not that I was born with it, but there were circumstances that led me to to have that kind of chemical imbalance. And I kind of think that pedophilia might be along the same lines. That there's a myriad of things that gets a person to that point, but once they're at that point, that is kind of what it is not that it's a chemical imbalance per se, but well, I mean, maybe it is, because our sexual urges are driven by chemicals, so it might be a chemical imbalance. I mean, I don't know enough about the science of the brain and sexuality to really state that for certain, but my guess is that if some research was put into it, I'm wondering if we would find some kind of chemical imbalance in the brain or something that causes it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just
that would have to fall back on what Aeolus was saying. Like, that's not going to happen unless the stigma on pedophilia goes away. Because right now, the only people we can actually study are people that have already committed crimes.
Well, true.
Because no one's going to be like let's just line up the pedophiles and have them go to a clinic. Like, that's not going to happen. So unfortunately, these people are just going to be stuck in a really, really difficult situation.
Yeah. Well, Lillian in the comments just said, so sort of a predisposition, GE. Well, I would say possibly, like not necessarily that because they are pedophiles, that meant that they always were able to be pedophiles. Well, maybe, because, I mean, predisposition kind of indicates that they have the ability to turn into that. Or ability to go along that route, and it's just those complicated situations that led up to that particular path. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, I mean, I know, like me,
you can be predisposed to diabetes, you can be predisposed to depression. Like, the predisposition just means that I guess there's not as many biological safeguards against different situations.
Yeah.
Did you put that in quotes? Because that needs to be in quotes before somebody misquotes that. Biological safeguards.
Yeah,
Um,
I should definitely dip into the like genetic things that actually control how like different traits are expressed. I'll just do that instead.
Yeah, I think that we do. One of my big points since we've started Hypocrite of the Week, because it's almost always a pedophile pastor, is that we've really got to destigmatize pedophilia and get people the help that they need before they actually commit pedophilia or become a pedophile. The thing is, though, is it's just so like untalked about. We don't want to talk about it. We want to punish people right away as soon as they say that they are a pedophile or that they're sexually attracted to children. We just go ooh instead of actually trying to get these people some help. And I think that that's something that we've all admitted to advocating for on this show previously. And yes, when you commit acts of pedophilia and you engage in child sexual abuse, you do need to be punished. But the punishment is not the end game, because if all you do is punish them, they're not going to get life in prison for this. They're probably going to be out 10, 15, 20 years and never actually got any help at all. So yes, you need to
well,
punish them. You need to explain to them why it's wrong, but they still need to get help.
Well, and before there was some concern over whether or not pedophilia was a real thing. In the comment section, somebody said, "Well, who thinks that it's not a real thing?" And I think that the point there is that a lot of religious people don't consider it to be a real problem. That it's just these people have fallen by the wayside
It's
of God or
it's
something.
just sin.
Right. They don't consider that it's an actual human biological thing that needs to be addressed, and so they think that they can just simply will it away, just by not wanting to do it or something like that, which is totally ridiculous.
It's
I
like
mean,
point of order. Uh, Pedophilia is one of the things that is actually not expressly said you shouldn't do in the Bible. It's actually encouraged a number of times.
Well, I mean, I guess I could make the argument like Luke 17:2, which basically says that if you were to harm a little child, you're better off tying a millstone around your neck and jumping into the ocean,
Well,
whether you harm
Mr.
them or lead
Bible
them
here.
astray. So, I mean, it is what it is as far as that goes. I'm sure you can find a
I think it's
contradiction or
like
a
it's how they
verse that supports it.
define it's like how they define harm and child seems to change from book to book.
Well, look at how we've defined it over the years. I mean, if you think about pedophilia, most people would say if you go have sex with a 16-year-old and you're an adult, that's pedophilia. But what does biology say? And then we kind of get into some murky territory where we've
It is
outgrown our
murky.
biology and we have human morality now, and we've advanced. But does that mean that those biological urges and functions that have been present for thousands of years are going to simply be overturned in a matter of generations? Are you really going to
Yes.
overturn evolutionary biology and psychology in a matter of generations? I think you're
That is
insane
what
if you
people
believe
want,
that.
yes.
They want it, but they're insane if they think that that is going to be the perfect model and it's going to work 100% of the time. It's just not possible.
That's why we just have to we have to cultivate a better system where it's just like if you have if you have quirks of the brain that don't harm anybody and doesn't impact your life in any significantly negative way, then just leave them alone. But then if you have mental quirks that result in you actually harming people or yourself, then we should do something about that. So like I don't like there's nuance even in that, unfortunately, because of course there is. But I don't understand this idea that it's like there's a lot of people that try to equate things like homosexuality with pedophilia, obviously is the go-to. But they also try to equate it like transsexuality is nothing but like schizophrenia that we just relabeled or something. And it's like all of this is just not helpful. We have genuine issues that people actively want to have stop. Let's help people instead of demonizing them across the board.
I completely agree, but It is 4 minutes past the half hour. So how about ALS? Let's go ahead and stamp this guy with Hypocrite of the Week. And
Dieter, do you got the mallet?
Yeah, I have the fucking mallet.
All right. So, for being a pastor who has been charged not only with child sexual abuse allegations, but also attempting to silence and bribe the witnesses. What else? Witness intimidation. Attempting to intimidate the witnesses out of not testifying against you when you're supposed to be the pastor, the moral precedent in your community, but instead you're some piece of shit son of a bitch that really deserves to rot, because not only you did not try to seek help, but you tried to silence the people that you harmed. You're a problem. You deserve to be locked away, but we do want you to get help. Dieter, go ahead and stamp him. Give him a couple more for witness intimidation. Trying to exercise his pastoral authority to silence people. He's probably even engaging in victim blaming.
Yeah.
I love how people in positions of power still try to do victim blaming shit. It's like, oh, I, as the weak pastor, couldn't possibly resist the wiles of these children.
Here, I pulled it up too.
It's
I
like,
was right. Luke 17 and 2. It would be better for them to be thrown in the sea with a millstone tied around their neck than to cause one of these little ones to stumble. And believe it or not, Jesus
what little
said
ones
a lot.
were they talking about? Because evidently it's not the little ones from foreign lands, because those little ones are sex slaves.
Okay, listen, Jesus said a lot of things about the children, and if you're going to claim to be a Christian who is supposed to be Christ-like, then you need to adhere to his statements, and if you're not, then you're just a piece of shit. Hypocrite of the week.
Very well.
Well, just a little bit of, show announcement. I think we've collectively decided to turn this into more of a bi-weekly podcast that we're going to be doing. So every 2 weeks we're going to be
semi-weekly.
Semi-weekly.
Bi-weekly means twice a week.
Oh, my bad. I'm stupid. Yeah.
Bi-monthly.
Okay, Bi-monthly. Bi-monthly is what I was looking for. Sorry. But semi-weekly, whatever. So, join us in 2 weeks. I'm going to try to get the next show set up on the channel so that it'll be there ready for you to set a reminder. Those reminders can be set in your subscription feeds. So I highly suggest you going and setting a reminder for that. Do join us next week when I'm sure a lot more things will happen and a lot more hypocrites will show their ugly heads. Peter?
My mild announcement. I threw this on my Facebook if you guys want to go cycle through that. But I think it's September 21st is the end of the world.
Again?
So that'll be pretty exciting. I think I'm getting the exact date wrong, but I think it's sometime in September the world's going to end, apparently. So
yeah, the asteroid is supposed to hit.
I don't know what their reasoning is, but it's another people predicting the end of the world, so let's all get up on that.
The amazing thing about that is because I'm going to my first atheist convention, Apostacon, in September, and that's that weekend. So if I get to ride out in I get to ride out in a blaze of glory, seeing Matt Dillahunty, Penn and Teller, and all the other greats, you know what? The world can fucking end that weekend, and I don't give two shits about it.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that I can raise enough money to get out there. Right now, I'm about $700 shy though.
I'm actually also planning to be there. So if you guys want to donate to Godless Engineer, you can get all three of us at Apostacon.
Ooh,
that'll be fun.
Yeah,
and then we can all see how incredibly short Aeolus is.
Yeah,
I'm actually not that short. But hey, I wanted to make another minor announcement. This week, I've been promoted to sex god. So, just throwing that out there. Follow me on Instagram at GodWorksOut. I'm the new sex god. With the lowercase g. Lowercase g.
All right. Well, we're gonna go on ahead and get out of here. We appreciate everybody joining us this week. Again, please join us in the next couple weeks when we have another podcast. Keep watching this channel for any updates, as well as God Works Out and Dieter Lucum. Links will be in the description after this is over. And I'll be a little bit more diligent, guys, about getting those up there beforehand. So, but anyways, everybody have a nice night, day, weekend, whenever you happen to be watching this. And as Aola says, thanks for watching and random Dieter thing.
Reason. I had to blow